Welcome to This Explainer, where we're breaking down a seriously insightful article by Master Sense by Faraday. All right, let's just jump right in, because if you're a modern trainee, where really anyone's stepping into a new professional environment, it can honestly feel like walking straight onto a battlefield. The intense pressure, the impossibly tight deadlines, the constant feeling that senior staff are just watching your every move. It's a heavy burden, and frankly, it breeds a massive amount of self-doubt. But here's a fascinating, kind of surprising fact for you. Neurologically speaking, when you're staring down a looming project deadline or anticipating a harsh review from a manager, your brain can actually trigger the exact same physiological stress response as if you were literally being chased by a predator. I mean it. Your heart rate spikes, your palms get sweaty, your breathing gets shallow. So if you're feeling that overwhelming pressure right now, I really want you to know you're absolutely not alone, and it's a completely natural biological reaction. Am I good enough? Did I fail? Will this affect how people see me? Honestly, I bet these exact questions have run through your mind at least once this week, right? Maybe you got one of those late-night emails asking for an unexpected revision, or a senior colleague gave you a look you just couldn't quite read. When you're dealing with industrial rotations, short-term assignments, and entirely unfamiliar expectations, these underlying fears naturally trigger that exact fight-or-flight response we just talked about. Your brain reacts to a supervisor's simple correction as if it's a literal threat to your survival. You want to either snap back defensively or just completely withdraw and hide under your desk. But what if we could fundamentally change that reaction? What if you didn't have to be at the mercy of your own adrenaline? So that brings us Section 1, the modern trainee's reality. To actually survive this high-pressure reality of entry-level roles and constant rotations, we have to completely reframe how we see it. This environment isn't here to break you. It's actually the very beginning of a profound professional and personal transformation. And to navigate it, the source material presents a powerful solution. I like to call it the dual-engine approach. It combines emotional intelligence, which is just the ability to wisely recognize and manage your own emotions as well as the emotions of others, with Christian grace, which adds this deep spiritual dimension. It's about reflecting Christ through humility, truth, patience, and peace. Think about a trainee who just grits their teeth, relying on pure willpower to get through the day. Eventually, they burn out. It's guaranteed. But when you combine proven psychological tools with this deep spiritual grounding, you don't just survive the workplace. You turn intimidation into true professional maturity, and you actually begin to thrive. It's a pretty stark contrast when you put them side by side. On one hand, you have unmanaged, fleshly panic. It's chaos, it's fire, it's just constant conflict. We all know exactly what that feels like. Your chest is tight, your mind is racing, you're frantically typing out a Slack message that you are 100% going to regret sending 5 minutes later. It's exhausting. But on the other side, you see the incredible competitive advantage of graceful self-control. The intersection of modern emotional intelligence and the timeless fruits of the spirit, things like patience, kindness, and faithfulness, gives you an incredible edge in any corporate environment. Self-control steadies your reactions when you're under fire, while kindness preserves those vital workplace relationships that you're inevitably going to need down the road. Moving right along to Section 2, rethinking workplace conflict. We need a massive paradigm shift here, guys. It's time to directly challenge the misconception that workplace friction automatically equals a failure in your career. Think about the last time a supervisor sharply corrected a presentation you spent hours and hours on. We instinctively assume that this kind of conflict means disrespect, personal rejection, or even downright hostility. We take it so personally. But the reality? It's usually just a clash of different expectations, communication styles, or workloads. Disagreement in a professional setting does not automatically equal disrespect. A supervisor's blunt correction or a colleague challenging your idea often stems simply from their desire to see the project succeed, or, let's be real, because they are under immense, crushing pressure from their own bosses. Recognizing this requires a huge amount of empathy, but it completely changes how you experience your workday. Whenever you hit a disagreement, you're essentially standing at a crossroads. You have a distinct choice right in front of you. You can go down one path, the one with storm clouds, bitter arguments, and impulsive anger, which, let's face it, ultimately damages your reputation. Or you can consciously choose the other path, the one toward growth, understanding, and peace. Try to think of workplace friction not as a career hurdle that's just trying to trip you up, but as a refining fire. A refining fire burns away the impurities, right? Conflict exposes our impatience, our pride, and our hidden insecurities, all so that our character and our resilience can be strengthened for the much bigger responsibilities that lie ahead. A gentle answer turns away wrath. To really anchor this paradigm shift, the source brings in this timeless piece of wisdom from Proverbs 15:1. True Christian maturity begins when you simply refuse to interpret every single correction as a personal rejection. Think about the power that gives you. Your response holds incredible influence. It can either immediately calm a deeply tense situation, or it can completely inflame it. You are entirely in the driver's seat of your own reaction. Which brings us to Section 3, the power of self-awareness. This is the very first pillar of emotional intelligence, and it emphasizes the absolute necessity of looking inward before you ever attempt to react outwardly. Before you respond to a conflict, you've got to pause and ask yourself, what am I actually feeling right now? Is it anger, fear, maybe embarrassment or confusion? Here is a brilliant psychological fact. Studies show that the mere act of giving a specific name to your emotion physically reduces the response of your amygdala. That's your brain's primary threat center. So naming the emotion literally reduces its biological power over you. It's wild. A person who doesn't understand their own emotion is always going to react impulsively. But by recognizing your personal triggers, like, say, feeling defensive when you're corrected publicly, or getting the urge to withdraw when your ideas are ignored, you can actually respond wisely instead of just reacting blindly. Christian Grace invites this really honest self-examination, much like the teaching in Matthew 7:5 about examining the plank in our own eye before we start focusing on somebody else's faults. When friction happens, I want you to try running through a quick mental checklist. Just ask yourself, did I contribute to the misunderstanding? Did I actually listen well to their instructions? Did I assume wrongly about their motives? Did I respond way too quickly? Taking just a moment to check yourself and quietly acknowledge your own faults before getting intensely defensive, that is a literal superpower in the workplace. It prevents so many unnecessary professional wars. All right, moving to Section 4, mastering self-regulation. Now, once you're aware of your emotions, what are you actually supposed to do with them? Well, that's where self-regulation comes in. Now, to be clear, self-regulation absolutely does not mean denying your feelings or pretending you aren't hurt or angry. It means managing those emotions so they don't dictate your tone, your words, or your decisions. This text from James 1:19 is profoundly practical for your career. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, and slow to become angry. This isn't just spiritual advice, folks. It is top-tier professional wisdom. Imagine you get a highly critical email that just makes your blood boil. Your immediate impulse is to rapid-fire type a defensive reply, right? Fingers just flying across the keyboard to justify yourself. Self-regulation is the maturity of stepping away from the keyboard entirely. It means asking for clarification later instead of getting defensive right now. The emotionally intelligent trainee chooses words that protect dignity and actually move the conversation toward a resolution. And finally, Section 5. De-escalating with stillness. We've talked a lot about the internal mental work. Now let's focus on some actionable, physical ways to transform these spiritual and emotional insights into real-time workplace de-escalation. Here's a highly practical 3-step procedure you can literally use today. Step 1 is the 4-second pause. Before you respond to a harsh comment or a stressful email, literally count to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Taking those 4 brief seconds allows that initial massive wave of adrenaline to pass, letting your response filter through biblical self-control rather than raw impulse. Step 2 involves active listening statements. And Step 3 focuses on peaceful, physical cues. Let's break those down. So, expanding on Step 2, using active listening statements is an incredibly effective tool for lowering the temperature in a room. Using phrases like, "I understand your concern," or "Let me confirm what you expect." Listen, even if a supervisor's delivery feels completely harsh or deeply unfair, using these statements to validate them works absolute wonders. It instantly lowers the tension because they feel heard. And the beautiful thing about this is that it de-escalates the situation entirely, without you having to surrender a single ounce of your own personal dignity. You remain entirely professional and entirely in control. Finally, Step 3. Your physical presence speaks volumes before you even say a single word. You have to be highly intentional about your physical cues. Keep your shoulders relaxed, maintain steady eye contact, use a calm tone, and keep your hands open. When the pressure is immense, the deadline is like an hour away, and everyone around you is just losing their minds, remember that physical stillness is not passivity. Make no mistake, it is disciplined strength. It shows your team and your managers that you are actively choosing wisdom over impulse, profound clarity over confusion, and ultimate peace over panic. Well, we have covered a lot of ground today, exploring how the dual engine of emotional intelligence and Christian grace can entirely transform your career. So I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. When your next workplace conflict arises, and trust me, it absolutely will, are you going to choose panic, or will you embrace the refining fire of grace and stillness.
Please like, share, and subscribe to Master Sense by Faraday, and turn on notifications so you don't miss new and upcoming videos. Drop a comment below and tell us what you'd like to see next.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something literally every professional faces: how to take the sheer anxiety of workplace conflict and flip it into a massive demonstration of emotional intelligence and leadership. We're drawing our insights from a really fascinating text by Master Sense by Faraday, which looks at professional development through a unique lens of Christian grace. We're going to explore how managing friction isn't just about, surviving your workday. It's actually the ultimate training ground for your future leadership. Okay, let's take a quick look at our roadmap. We'll be moving through 1. Core principles of grace, 2. Real-world trainee scenarios, 3. The conflict management framework, 4. Transforming friction into influence, and finally, 5. Grace under pressure. Let's dive right in. Section 1. Core principles of grace. We are starting off by completely dismantling the myth that having grace just means being a pushover. Seriously, think about this for a second. How do you respond when your work is harshly criticized? It's the ultimate trial you're going to face as a trainee, right? It really challenges us to pause and rethink our natural knee-jerk defensive reactions. Now, that brings us to our first core principle: empathy. The text defines this as seeking understanding before judgment, basically by asking what the other person might be experiencing. Now, what's really important to understand here is that empathy is absolutely not about agreeing with toxic or wrong behavior. Not at all. Instead, it's a strategic tool to reduce defensiveness and open up constructive dialogue. Maybe your supervisor is just under intense pressure from management, or a teammate totally misunderstood the goal. By stepping back and asking, "What did I miss?" you instantly lower the temperature in the room. And this brilliantly illustrates how you can speak truth but do it respectfully. Look at this contrast. An accusation says, "You never explain things properly." Boom. That immediately puts the other person on defense. But a grace-based response, that uses I statements, like, "I realize I may need clearer guidance on the expected format." See the difference? You are addressing the exact same issue, but without attacking their character. You're keeping the issue clear without making enemies. Which leads us to the sheer power of humility. Actually admitting mistakes builds massive long-term trust, while gentleness completely dismantles petty workplace politics. It shifts your whole mindset from "I need to be right" to "How do we succeed together?" So the crucial takeaway here is that humility is actually an act of immense strength. It actively clears away those annoying ego clashes that just slow down project momentum. It's a total professional superpower. Moving on to Section 2, Real-World Trainee Scenarios. Let's bring these concepts down to earth with a scenario literally every professional has faced. You submit work that just does not meet expectations, and your supervisor gives you firm, critical feedback. Your instinct might be to argue, make excuses, or honestly just shut down completely. But emotional intelligence demands a totally different approach here. The text gives us this exact, incredibly effective response. "Thank you for pointing this out. I will correct it and learn from it." Simple, right? By listening, clarifying, and using this exact phrasing, you immediately diffuse the tension. You're showing your supervisor that you value growth way more than your own ego. Let's look at another one. Feeling ignored or excluded. You feel left out of key discussions or opportunities, which leads to this huge temptation to either gossip or just withdraw entirely and stop trying. We see this all the time, especially in fast-paced environments. But rather than letting that resentment build up, the source recommends a highly proactive, grace-based approach. Try this on for size instead. "I would like to contribute more to this area. Is there a task I can support?" This highlights perfectly how you can take those feelings of exclusion and turn them into responsible communication. You're asserting your value respectfully. Without playing the victim, you're stepping up as a collaborator. All right, Section 3, the conflict management framework. Now that we've seen the scenarios, let's look at the actual blueprint for navigating a clash. Take a look at this visual representation from the text. It beautifully maps out a conscious, step-by-step cycle to help you override those impulsive, emotional reactions. The first 4 steps are all about internal regulation and information gathering. Step 1, just pause before reacting so your emotions can settle. Step 2, drawing on the faith-based nature of our source, is to pray for wisdom, humility, and the right words. Step 3 is clarifying the issue, separating the hard facts from your assumptions. And step 4 is listening actively, without jumping in to interrupt. This makes absolutely sure you fully understand the landscape before you make a move. Once you've done that internal work, the final steps shift your focus entirely outward. Step 5 is speaking the truth respectfully, without blame or sarcasm. Step 6 is seeking resolution, not victory. I absolutely love that distinction. Resolution, not victory. And step 7 is to learn and move forward by reflecting on the conflict. It reminds us that the ultimate goal isn't to defeat a colleague, it's to restore understanding and improve the work. Up next, Section 4, Transforming Friction into Influence. Let's see how this framework builds into something much larger than just surviving a tough rotation. This visual perfectly captures the macro view. Managing conflict maturely literally builds the staircase to your early leadership opportunities. Every disagreement you handle well is a building block for your professional reputation. Think about it this way. Technical competence may get a trainee noticed, but emotional intelligence helps a trainee become trusted. I really want you to anchor on this specific takeaway. Employers deeply value the rare person who can remain steady when the pressure is on. Anyone can learn a technical skill, but keeping your cool during a crisis, that is exactly how you earn real trust. So how do you actually do it? Through what the text calls strategic patience and influence. You maintain a steady presence during crunch time. You actively become the calm in the storm. You initiate reconciliation early to prevent toxic resentment from festering in your department, and you make sure to document your lessons learned. By doing this, your calmness actually becomes contagious. It literally shifts the entire emotional climate of your team. Finally, Section 5, Grace Under Pressure. As we wrap up this explainer, let's look at the deeper purpose behind mastering all of this. The text emphasizes that your workplace conduct acts as a witness. Your colleagues are constantly reading your attitude, your tone, your patience, and your integrity. For faith-based professionals, acting as a peacemaker in difficult spaces, applying this grace to stressful emails, tight deadlines, and heated disagreements is a quiet but incredibly powerful testament to your core values. So I'll leave you with this final provocative thought to consider the next time work really tests your patience. The next time I face workplace conflict, will I react from emotion or will I respond with wisdom, grace, and a desire for peace? The choice is entirely yours, and it just might be the key to your future leadership. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Please like, share, and subscribe to Master Sense by Faraday, and turn on notifications so you don't miss new and upcoming videos. Drop a comment below and tell us what you'd like to see next.